My husband doesn't want to have sex. Why? If you're watching this, you've asked yourself that countless times. You're probably beautiful, intelligent, and warm, and want to have sex. And the first thing I want to say to you, it's not your fault. And validate the pain that you probably have endured, the loneliness, the lack of being touched and seen and connected to and valued and pursued and wanted. And you actually deserve that as a woman, but you're married to a man, for whatever reason, doesn't want to have sex. I'm Dr. Doug Weiss, and I'm a psychologist, and I've been helping men and women figure this thing out for over 2 decades. So I'm going to give you some options of what could be actually going on here. And if you can unknot this, maybe help you and your husband have a great sexual life your entire life. And if not, you can always give us a call or come and do a 3-day and 5-day intensive. We can help you unknot this thing so you can be successful, so you feel wanted, you feel desired, you feel pursued again, and you feel like he loves you. You deserve that, and you feel like he's making love to you, not just having sex with you when you are having sex. So let me give you some things that could be in the way. The first thing is depression. It is possible that your husband's suffering from severe depression. Worthless feelings, low energy, difficulty concentrating, his suicidal thoughts, low energy during the day, feeling like he's not enjoying life at all. Like if he has a lot of those characteristics, also a lack of desire for sex is a characteristic of depression. Now, I would tell you, if he's getting up and going to work and has energy for his other activities and his friends and all that kind of stuff, probably not depression. But if everything seems to be getting smaller in his life, including his desire to work, wanting to stay in bed, gaining weight or losing weight, difficulty sleeping, those are also symptoms. If you see all that cluster and his world's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, it may be depression, and you want to see a doctor about that to find out if it's psychological or chemical, and that can also help. Now, another thing it could be is a low thyroid. So have him get a blood test and have his thyroid tested, because if his thyroid is tested, he would also have very similar symptoms to depression, but it could be thyroid related. And if his thyroid is low, he can take Synthroid or some medicine that a doctor would recommend and monitor that to make sure he's on the right dose, and his energy should come back up, and his clarity and his desire to want to have sex should come right back online. The third thing it could be is testosterone. So this is another thing. You can go to a doctor and get a test and find out what his testosterone level is for his age and see if he's with normal range. And if he is within normal range, well, then it's another issue. And I want to talk to you about the last thing, which it most likely is after you rule those things out. I had a beautiful woman in my office and just this a very short period ago. And she said, Dr. Weiss, he's not depressed. We got his thyroid checked and and everything else you told us to get checked, and it wasn't any of those. It was this. And let me tell you what this is. Intimacy anorexia, okay? Intimacy anorexia is a very real situation where if you're married to an intimacy anorexic as a woman, you feel alone, you feel disconnected, you feel like you've been begging to be loved, begging to be wanted, and not ever seeming to get through, except for maybe 1 or 2 week periods at a time where if there's a real crisis, he shows up and he becomes your hero, but then he disappears again on you. I'm going to walk you through the characteristics of intimacy anorexia. I would encourage you to go to intimacyanorexia.com and take the test there, but let me go through the keywords with you so that you can determine, well, maybe this is what we're dealing with. Because if it is, it will open up a whole new world of opportunity for him to heal and for you to have the marriage and the sex life that you deserve to have. So I'm going to go through some keywords. Busy. He keeps himself so busy that he has little time just for you. He has time for friends, for spiritual or political services or activities at work, maybe even the kids, but not you. You're not going on dates, you're not connected, you don't feel like he sits down and really shares his heart with you in time. Busy. And that may be just him being on the computer, him reading books or watching stock markets or other things, just busy. Blame. He will blame you for all the issues in the marriage. If an issue comes up, he's going to somehow spin it so that you're responsible for that issue. So if you felt blamed a lot, it may be intimacy anorexia. Love, withholding love. See, there's a certain way you're made as a woman to receive love. Maybe it's gifts, maybe it's praise, maybe it's acts of service, maybe it's quality time. You know, there's ways you like to be loved, and he knows exactly the way you like to be loved, because when he's in trouble, he knows how to love you. But the rest of the time, he intentionally doesn't love you in those ways. If it's gifts, he doesn't buy you gifts. If it's touch, he doesn't touch you. And so if it's acts of service, he doesn't pick up after himself or help around the house. He knows where the pain is for you. Because intimacy anorexia, by definition, is actively withholding spiritual, emotional, and sexual intimacy from your spouse. So withholding love would be a key characteristic. Praise, withholding praise. You don't get praise. You're not seen for what you do and how creative you are and how industrious you are and how hard you work with the kids or help him out or do stuff like that. There's no acknowledgement of your contribution. So withholding praise, withholding sex. Now, there's two ways of doing this one. One is you may have a regular sex life for once or twice a week, etc., but you don't feel like he's even with you during sex. If he's closing his eyes, he may be in a fantasy world or wanting to have pornography, other things going on. And it is true that a lot of people who struggle with sexual addiction struggle with intimacy anorexia, for sure. But the other way of withholding sex is you're just not getting any sex. It's been weeks, months, sometimes years. I had couples 5, 10, and 20 years walk in my office on Monday in a 3 or 5 day intensive, and very shortly they were having sex, okay, because we dealt with the problem, which was the intimacy anorexia. Okay, I can't imagine being in the pain for 5, 10, 20 years, but some of you may be experiencing that as well. Okay, so withholding sex. Withholding spiritually from you. Maybe they engage in spiritual activity with other people. You know, I've had a rabbi, I've had New Age people, I've had pastors who are great spiritual leaders and teachers in their field, but when it comes to their spouse, they disconnect. They don't open that part of their life to their spouse. Another thing, feelings. Unwilling or unable to share his feelings with you. Maybe with his family, with other people, but with you. Unless there's a whole lot of work being done by you. Oftentimes, if you're married to an intimacy anorexic, you're paying $1 to him and getting a penny back. And if it feels like that, it probably is intimacy anorexia. Another thing is using anger or silence as a way to control in the marriage. And using anger to push you away to create distance, because the real objective is to create distance. And withholding sex from you keeps you constantly in pain, which keeps the distance there, which is exactly what the intimacy anorexia is wanting. And I would really encourage you to get the Intimacy Anorexia book and the Married and Alone book, or the DVDs. They're downloadable, and that may help you just understand that particular piece. Controlling or shaming around money issues could be another characteristic of intimacy anorexia. And so if you're experiencing that, that's not as common with all of them, but it is pretty consistent. So busy, blame, withholding love, withholding praise, withholding sex, unable to share their feelings, using anger and silence as a way to control, controlling or shaming around money issues. Now another thing, just a kind of another characteristic that might be helpful is if you feel like a roommate. If you feel like a roommate, the chances are you are in a relationship with intimacy anorexic. And so they don't really want to have intimacy spiritually, emotionally, or sexually with you. And so I hope this is helpful, because if your husband doesn't want to have sex, I know you have spent hours with your girlfriends and feeling ashamed because they're talking about how their husband always wants sex. And you look at yourself and you're a beautiful woman, and you're intelligent, and you're good-hearted, and there's no rational reason as to why you're being rejected. Even if you're in the same bed, his back is towards you, and the coldness of that line in your bed is so painful. And you've cried. And I know that. I've listened to you for over 20 years in my office in Colorado Springs. And I want you to know that if he's not having sex with you, get to the bottom of it, whether it's depression, whether it's thyroid, whether it's testosterone, or check into Intimacy Anorexia. Go to intimacyanorexia.com, find out some more resources for you, because you deserve an incredible sex life, but an incredible marriage as well. I'm Dr. Doug Weiss, and I hope this has been helpful for you.